Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of video reviews about board and card games. Here are your hosts, Tom Vassell and Sam Healy.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Z Garcia. Hello.
Sam Healy. What's up, folks? How you doing?
All right.
I had to jump in this one, and sometimes I'll be featured in a Miami Dice episode.
More often than not.
Sometimes not. These days, quite frequently, yes. But if there's one Miami Dice I'm going to be included in, is this one.
So this is Pandemic Legacy Season 2. You'll notice that this is a yellow box. There's going to be two versions of it, yellow and black. They are exactly the same, just depends what box you want. So Z's, of course, going to get the yellow one.
I do like this more than the other one, the artwork on this one.
Ah, okay.
And not the color. I mean, the colors, they both look good, but I do like this cover more.
So in this is our first impressions video. So we're going to be doing several videos with Pandemic Legacy Season 2. We're going to be doing a playthrough of the whole thing. However, you're going to not see those till later, except for the prologue. We'll post the prologue soon because the prologue of this game, which we're going to be talking about a little bit here, is something that is widely known. So if you don't want to know anything about the game,
Bye.
Just go buy it,
later.
right? No, but we're not going to spoil any of the events or anything that's happened in it. At this point in time, we're going to do a full review, but this time we have played the prologue and 3 games, and so we want to give our first impressions of it at that point.
Yes. If you've not played Pandemic Legacy Season 1, by the way, bye as well.
Yeah, this is true because this will actually, even what we talk about here, will probably spoil Season 1.
Yeah, just.
Well, speaking of Pandemic Season 1, Pandemic Legacy Season 1 was Pandemic. And as the game went by, it changed rules of Pandemic. But by the final game, we played it, I think, 17 times. By our 17th game, we were still playing Pandemic.
Yeah.
And if you were someone who was very familiar with Pandemic and the expansions to Pandemic, you could see them have Pandemic evolve into Pandemic with expansions for a large majority of that game.
Yeah.
Where they would add things that they had introduced in expansions previously.
So this game is very different.
No, no.
Well, this game starts differently. The base game is similar to Pandemic, but instead of there being 4 viruses, there is just 1 plague.
Basically.
And there's also supply cubes, which are positive. You are trying to keep these supply cubes all over in different cities, and the world's very small. At the beginning of the game, there's only, I think, there's 12 cities. No, there's 9 cities. There's 9 cities and 3 havens. So it's the 12 things. And you are moving these cubes around, and cubes are disappearing rather than adding them.
They're being consumed. They're
or stolen or whatever. And so you need to keep those cubes. If all the cubes disappear, a city can have a plague in it, and you definitely don't want that to happen. And so that's what you're doing for the start of this game.
I mean, almost immediately, this really takes any concept you know from Pandemic, almost every concept you know from Pandemic, and flips it on its head, or messes with it.
Not every concept. I mean, the player deck is still.
That's one of the few things that's similar, and there is a kind of card in there that has never been seen before.
The epidemic thing is similar.
The what?
The epidemic deck.
That's similar, and that one's almost exactly the same.
But that's like the core of the game. That's like the core engine of the game. So I don't think it's as dissimilar. It does take some of those concepts, like how the cubes come out onto the board, why they're coming out onto the board, why they're disappearing. That's flipped on its head.
Yeah.
But that's only like one concept of the game.
Yeah, but there's also another intriguing thing. Because the game only has 9 cities at the beginning of the game, and again, this is not spoilers, this is the stuff in the first thing, you have more than 1 copy in the regular deck of cards.
The player deck?
The player deck. And you have more than 1 copy in the infection deck.
Yeah.
And that changes the game a lot.
That's what I mean. They take concepts we know, and they just push them this way a little bit, and suddenly you're like, wait, this is familiar but different.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It feels like Pandemic, but isn't. You know what I'm saying? And I think that really sings. It finds a balance between giving you something you know, something that if you're approaching this game you enjoy, I assume, but doesn't rest on its laurels either. It feels different.
Yeah, I got you.
So this game has a prologue, which again doesn't really spoil it. You can technically play the prologue over and over and over again.
Right.
We played it once and we were ready to go. It was fine, but I mean, you don't have to. We wanted to see the meat of the game. The prologue is good. It gets you into the game, and we played 3 games so far. What are your impressions going in about the story, first of all? How do you feel the story comes in? Because story is a big part of many Legacy games.
Well, I like the fact that it takes place in somewhat of a distant future from Season 1. It doesn't just pick up right where Season 1 left off. I like that. There's some backstory that has happened since then that you have to kind of go ahead and discover. It's like you're having to read about historical accounts that have already happened to try to figure out what's going on now. And I like that. I like that it's a very strong thematic storytelling element that the game has, and I really enjoy it. It's really cool.
I'm really liking it too, and I think it was a brilliant move to jump that far ahead. To distance themselves from the events.
You also love post-apocalyptic.
I do too, but it's just a good storytelling mechanism to go, okay, let's create history. Right? For the first one, you don't need to create history. It's our own history. For this one, they jumped ahead enough to create fake history between the events of Season 1 and this.
Yeah.
And it works. It also avoids being samey, which is a big concern, I assume, for these guys. You know, how do we make a sequel to a popular game like Pandemic Legacy Season 1? Well, one of the things you do is you distance yourself from it by its setting, and it works. And the storytelling in it, as you asked, I think is really strong.
I don't think you need to play Pandemic Legacy Season 1 to play this game, but you should. You know,
I don't think you need to, but I would think it would be folly not to. I definitely say you should experience these in order.
With the storyline in Pandemic Legacy Season 1, the storyline was extremely linear. You did this events happened at certain points, and they were going to happen at those points no matter what else went on.
Right.
In this one, it's fairly linear, but there's wiggle room.
I agree with that.
Different things can happen at different times.
Well, we've already kind of seen that.
Right, part of that is, again, you can see this on the board at the beginning, there's these recon actions you can take, and those will allow you to go in different directions. The game kind of nudges you towards some of them, or you can't even do some of them at the beginning of the game.
Right.
But you're not completely constricted.
Right.
And so far, I'm really excited because each month, each new game that we start, I'm like, ooh, so what's going to happen here? You know, what's the new storyline? There's a good chunk of story. There's a lot of text and things. What do you think about the mechanisms of the game itself? Like we said, it's very different than Pandemic. So how do you feel about that? Because I know you love Pandemic.
I worry about spoilers going into this sort of thing. I'll just say that I find a lot of the concepts that they explored in the first one have been both refined and simplified, and they really work for me. I'm mainly thinking here, and this is, I don't think, a spoiler, about character creation.
No, that's in the original. I mean, that's in the base game, right?
Right, so characters, and the way your character is dealt with is simpler than the original Pandemic Legacy Season 1. But it also feels more engaging. There's an element of tension and enjoyment and character building that just works in this one. I'm really liking that.
Yeah, there's a little. I like the word tension that's there as far as the character building aspect is concerned, because
I'm attached to them. I don't want to lose any of them.
Yeah, well, it's not just that. It's that there's a sense of bad things can happen.
Right.
At really the drop of a hat.
Right.
And there's nothing you can really do to prepare for it.
Right.
And that's just the way it goes. That's how the world is. So I like that aspect of it as well. This is an incredible marriage between Davio and Leacock. Davio, I think, is set himself up as a legacy expert, kind of, and Leacock this is a great game to put that legacy aspect over it. I said it while we were playing it, and I think this is posturizing itself, at least in my mind, as the best legacy game that's out there because of its core foundation, and then to take that legacy treatment and give it to it. This was a perfect marriage.
I'm really liking the game. It is about an hour, a little bit over an hour per game. It has very good options. We're just constantly talking to each other. What do you think we should do? What do we do in this situation? I feel like there's, every once in a while in pandemic, you're kind of like, I don't know what to do at this point in time. I'll just do this. It happens in this game too a few times, but there's always, that's happening less and less as we go through. And I really enjoy how our characters are becoming really differentiated, awesome, and really cool characters. And then the game's like, also, we want you to know how hard it's going to be. And that's a cool balance, right? I don't like in a game when my character gets pretty cool, but the game level stays the same, and then we're just like, whoa, we blow everything apart.
Right,
or the opposite. We're like, your character's the same, but the game is now harder. No, I want it to be equal, and this game's doing a great job.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right now, for me, obviously it could change because we don't know what's coming in the future.
Very true.
But I'm really happy with this. This is 2 thumbs up. This is almost a 10 out of 10. I like it better than Legacy, the first season. I really do, because I like Pandemic, but I like this version even more, I think, and I really like the world building part of this. There are changes that are happening in this game throughout each game. There are little things that are changing consistently. There's more. The board that we are making here is going to be so different than everyone else's board, even more so than Pandemic Legacy Season 1. And I really like that. There are so many different new discovery things, even in the middle of a game. And that it wasn't even in Pandemic Legacy Season 1. There was sometimes where it was like, hey, we're going to play through this game, and we lost the first game, we're playing through the second one, let's just win now. And it was the same as the first one.
Okay.
I don't see that happening here. I feel like every game there's going to be a few new things.
Unless that tapers off, because again, we're only a few games into it. But I
That's
will
true.
agree with Tom as far as I think Legacy games hinge on this idea of, when I'm done, my game is different from your game, right? That's a core belief in the whole Legacy concept. And I think I agree with him that at the end of the day, my Legacy Season 2 is going to be more different than other people's Pandemic Legacy Season 2 versus Season 1.
Okay.
Well, even with characters, it's already hugely different.
I don't know that I don't know that I would like to say that I like this better than Season 1.
Yeah, I'm not there either, by the way.
I think it's just as good as Season 1, but the fact that it is a season, a furtherance of Season 1, and it's just as good, because usually you say that sequels aren't as good as the
I was going to say, it's not like a bad movie sequel.
Right. It continues that, and it gives you that same feel that you were wanting at the end of Season 1. Oh, I wonder what they're going to do with Season 2. I hope it's going to be just as good or maybe even better. They've done that. I don't know that this is better that I like it better than Season 1, but man, it lives up to the hype that I had for it.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but the hype that I had for Season 2, this is living up to it so far.
Well, I think they're using the TV analogy. When you see a good season for a TV show and then they're going to come out with a second season, you're worried about one of two things usually. They're just going to do more of the same, and at that point it's like, well, I've seen this. Or it used to be a film noir, and now it's a romantic comedy Season 2, and you're going, this isn't what I wanted.
Yeah.
I do think that this finds a perfect balance between the familiar, what you were hoping for, you're going to get it, and stuff you hadn't even thought about they could do with the system, you're going to get it.
Yeah.
Now, the good news for you guys is that after watching this, by the time you're watching this, we will have played through much more of this. We're hoping that we're actually done by the time you're watching this, but we don't know. And if that's, once we're finished, we're going to publish a full review. But we want to give you our opinions and so you can see how they changed.
Yes.
From, we played 3 and the Prologue, so 4, we played it 4 times. We don't know how many times we're going to play this game. So far, and it's not a spoiler for us, but we've won every time. But barely.
Things are getting
hair
tough.
on
Things
our
are getting
chin chin.
Yeah, it wasn't like we're like, oh yeah, we're winning this game. I'm really nervous going into the next game. But I'm excited about it, so you'll see more from us. And like I said, you also see the Prologue game, so you can see a little bit about how the initial stuff works. More will come later from us. So far, so good, though. I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Z Garcia, thank you.
Sam Healy. See you on the flip side.
Thanks for watching our review today. For more information about board games, as well as the #1 board game audio podcast, check out Dicetower.com for reviews, interviews, and more. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.